I'm Linda Jones, and I'm going to be reading a taster from my book, A Fistful of Feathers, and introducing you to the main character, Joe. And Joe is at the clinic, the place he hates the most in the world. I hate this stinking place. Joe kicked out at the unoffending chair so hard that it crashed into the wall. Chips of plaster puffed into the air like confetti. Seconds later, footsteps clicked rapidly down the corridor. He didn't care anymore if he got into trouble. "Are you all right?" Concerned, the nurse stood at the door. "Fine, I tripped," he lied, rattling the plastic chair back into place. "Well, if you do want me, press the buzzer. I'm just having a quick bite before I start in the other clinic." She walked off. "Lucky you," muttered Joe, his stomach growling loudly at the thought of food. He waited until he couldn't hear the nurse's footsteps, then pushed the small table under the window. Every visit he did the same thing. Scrambling on top, he pulled one of the plastic chairs up after him. It was dangerous standing on the wobbly chair on top of the table, but it was the only way to see out. The window was locked, of course. In the distance, he could just make out the edges of another building. It looked empty. Even when they passed it in the car, he never saw anyone near it. Not that he could see much. The tinted windows and the driver's shoulders usually obscured most of the car's windscreen. "What are you doing, Joe?" "Whoa!" The chair began to rock violently. He grabbed the windowsill, his heart thumping like a drum. "Hey, me!" A curious face peered up at him. "Why'd you creep up on me like that?" He didn't mean to sound so cross. Her smile disappeared in a flash. "I wasn't. Sorry," she mumbled. "It's okay. You just startled me. I thought you were the driver." "Oh, him." She shuddered. "What were you doing?" "Just looking. I was hoping the window was open so I could do a runner." He said it with a smile, but he meant every word. "Are you okay?" he asked Amy as he climbed down. The swelling on her neck wasn't as big as his, but he could see it had grown from the last time they'd met. Even with her shoulder-length hair, it was obvious. As if she felt his scrutiny, she bowed her head and stared at the floor. "Suppose," she shrugged. "I've been here for hours already. I've been doing those exercises like you showed me. They've helped loosen me up lots," she whispered, "but it's hard keeping it secret. Especially as they moved me to another place just last week. It's not fair, Joe. I just got sorted and everything." He could tell by her sad eyes that it had not been a good move. He'd only met Amy a year ago. Until then, he'd been convinced that he was the only one in the whole world with such a swelling on his neck. Even more shocking, Amy swore that she'd seen at least 2 other teenagers with the same thing. "Are you still on that farm with them Bigwells?" she asked. "I am," Joe smiled. "It's almost a year now, and I'm still going to that school. Doc Bowden hasn't found out." "Does Bert Bigwell still make you do all the farm work?" "Yeah, but I don't mind." He grinned. "Every time I come to the clinic he panics. He thinks I'll tell the doc about all the stuff I have to do around the farm, but I'm not going to say a word as long as I can carry on going to school." "Well, I think you were really brave standing up to Bigwell," she said, "and I can't believe you got one over on the doc." "Yeah, well, I just hope it stays that way." "Me too. Do you know it's my birthday next week? I'll be 11. There was no excitement in her voice. Joe noticed how pale her cheeks were and wondered how bad things had got. "Well, happy birthday from me," he said, as cheerfully as he could. "Mine isn't until April, then I'll be 14. I'll probably spend it with the pigs. They're always good for a laugh." She managed a feeble smile. "Tell you what, how about we play some stupid games? Anything you like, your choice," he said. It didn't take much to bring the sparkle back. "You're so silly," she said 20 minutes later. "That sounds nothing like a cockerel." "He's got a sore throat, but I think that makes you today's grand winner." "Have you got any friends at that school?" she asked. "Just the one, Dan Fraser. But he's not going to be there much longer. He's moving away." Just saying it made Joe's emptiness feel 10 times worse. "Oh, I'm sorry." She stopped abruptly. Her eyes grew wide. "It's Dr. Bowden," she mouthed. He'll go straight to his room. Don't worry, Joe whispered. They waited in silence until they heard his door click. Go, while it's clear. Remember, not a word about school or the farm. Promise. She flashed him a quick smile, then she was gone. Joe sank onto one of the hard chairs. The familiar knot of anger began to tighten. Why was this happening to them? Why couldn't they just cut the stupid lumps off? It wasn't fair. None of it was fair. He'd get away from the Bigwells, go to another doctor or the police. The same thoughts ran through his head. What's the point of anything? He was useless. By the time Dr. Bowden buzzed for him, he hardly had the energy to stand. Stepping into the corridor, Joe glanced longingly toward the doors leading out to freedom. It would take just 9 short steps to reach his nightmare. He turned reluctantly. 9, 8, 7. The examination was the usual torture, except this time Bowden didn't take any blood. Joe gritted his teeth, determined not to yelp as cold fingers dug and prodded. He knew better than to complain. At last Bowden barked, "Put your shirt back on." Joe dared to ask a question. "Dr. Bowden, when will it stop growing? Oh, it seems to be getting worse." "Nothing to worry about," Bowden said curtly, looking down at his notes. Joe threw caution to the wind. "Well, can't you just cut it off or do something? You have to. It isn't fair." Cold, dark eyes glared at Joe under thick eyebrows. He had a small, pointy beard splattered with grey. It wagged like an angry finger when he spoke. "It'll all be over soon. That I promise." Bowden's words held no comfort. "What do you mean?" Bowden's pale lips curled into a smile that was about as warm as an ice cube. "Just what I said. Another few months, Ransom, it'll all be over. You get dressed." And that's the end of the taster, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of the book.